That was a great song, but this is a better one. I'm here with Gino, and I am Michael Tanner with Dice Media Group. We are going to talk today just about business, about stuff that happened in the Wall Street Journal, about inflationary pressures, about stuff that doesn't matter directly to your business, but makes a whole big stuff. And when the music stops and starts, we're going to get with Gino. But just for right now, I just want you to know that you are here up in the morning with Michael at your favorite host, right? And we're going to talk about your business and stuff that you can do. You'll be able to reach Gino. You'll be able to talk to Gino. Some people give away books. Some give away cash or prizes. I think this is more of an and or prizes situation. So what we'll be doing is we're just going to start. So, hey, I've got Gino. Gino, are you there? Are you there?
I am, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining with us. I know you're so excited to be here. Gino's been doing consulting for a few years now, and according to the ledger, right? Gino Kaye is the founder of Gino Kaye Consulting LLC, which means don't sue him; it won't do you any good. And he was born on the Upper West Side of New York City. Which means he's a Cubs fan. Just go out there and beat his car right now. Now, Gino started his career back in the 1980s as a bookkeeper consultant with business owners to help them operate more profitably with the better operating systems. Okay, well that doesn't mean that's not like Windows and stuff. That's like how we run our business, right? I mean, isn't that how that works?
Exactly. So many business owners just don't know how to be profitable. They know how to market their products or services, but they don't know how to operate efficiently. And from bookkeeping, I could help show them those other ways.
You mean we have to make money with this thing too? It just can't be something like that car in the garage or something, that we keep
It depends how long you want to do it.
Okay. Okay, if you're a trust fund baby, call us. Anyway, so what do you think about, okay, there's a lot of stuff coming out of the pandemic right now, right? We're starting to experience, like I saw in the Wall Street Journal today, at least 4 stories related to inflationary pressures. Oil prices are going to go up because people are now driving again. A lot of people are going back to work. We had a huge influx of travel, that kind of stuff. What are your top 3 predictions now that we're in halfway through the year is over, so it's safer? What are your predictions for this year? What can businesses see?
Well, the travel industry, thank God, is bouncing back massively. And that's so important for them because there's so much of a pent-up or demand. Businesses in general, there are rising costs. And while that's a little bit of a concern, what I've heard more from business owners is trying to attract the customers back without much of an advertising budget, because a lot of businesses were hurt with the lower income of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's why the brilliant people that brought to you 25 states have cut those people off of their PUA. I thought that was an amazing plan, and even before they're ready for it, because they think, well, 25 states being shut down, that won't affect tourism, would it? I mean, like if you had 25 states that are still locked down, wouldn't affect our tourism and travel industry. I mean, you're a bookkeeper, right? I mean,
well, yeah, I understand from a political point of view why they chose to do it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it was also short-sighted in that it gave the recipients almost no notice. And I know some people in those states who are really hurting because of that.
I'm in Utah. Yeah. By the way, there's this one financial firm called Morgan Chase or something, and they said it's purely financial too. And they don't know anything about money, right? Or do they? Or anyway, I was looking at the Wall Street Journal today, and my business, I told people as I was advising them and going through it, your business did not die, it just got sick, okay? But it's going to be like you had cancer and you're coming out of cancer a little bit in this, okay? What do you say to somebody whose business has had a real hard time in this? some businesses did really well. If you're a bike repair shop, if you're a retail, like if you are a grocery store, you kick butt. But what about the other businesses?
Brutal. I mean, the restaurant industry here in New York was devastated. And the businesses, your analogy is great, like having to recover from a major illness or a cancer. That's exactly what businesses have to do. And when I talk with businesses about that, first thing I do is congratulate them for surviving, because so many people and employees and employers and businesses didn't. But this is a new world. They have to totally restructure because their capital reserves and probably their borrowing ability is gone.
About that, I did notice this brilliant plan where it happened in Utah. Like they were giving out money for event people and marketing and whatever kind of thing. People like me. And then 10 people got the money and nobody else got the money. Like they asked for millions of dollars. The smart people asked for millions of dollars in line. They didn't ask for what they needed. They asked for every dime that they could get. I've noticed that with the PPP and other things, and restaurants, they're still trying to figure out what to do about restaurants. But restaurants normally fail 90% anyway. If you were advising a client, maybe you are. I'm not saying you are. He's advising clients. Anyway, if about being a hamburger, like a restaurant that sits people down, right? Where they've just spent $200,000-$300,000 just surviving because of the rent and the other things, because they never knew when they were going to come back. What type of things? Are you saying to them? What are things do you say?
To the restaurant owner or to the public patronizing the restaurant?
Let's just pretend we didn't care about the customers for a second. What about the guy who's paid the bills? What do we say? What do we say to?
Just get out there and just work as hard as you can. People want to come back. In New York, we're seeing people flock not only to the restaurants, but now their expanded outdoor area. So for a period of time, restaurants that have that expanded outdoor opportunity actually have an opportunity to sell more than they normally would have because they've got expanded seating space.
That's a good point, because we've had to make excess capacity. Advertising is from what I understand in this one class called the Advertising 101, is excess capacity is why we advertise. When we go into this market now and people are saying, let's do free, let's do other things, and I say, well, that's kind of not a plan. What's an actual plan? You think that's word of mouth is an actual plan?
I don't, free is tough because they've been surviving without income for so long. I think asking a restaurateur at this point to give away free things, it isn't quite being respectful of the business or their employees or anything. More, the restaurant owner is just offering a variety of prices and lowering the prices because during the pandemic, restaurant owners often had to add fees to the prices because of all the PPE, because of the lower volume of visitors. I have seen some restaurateurs start to lower their rates and market that on social media, which they've said is bringing more people in.
What about social media? Like, okay, so when you're going to be on this show, right? We do like 27 different platforms. No kidding. Wow. We go out. Blah, it goes deep. It goes wide. It goes my river's deep and wide. But anyway. But not everybody is insane. So if they come to me, I put them on all these things and whatever. But what about you? Like, are we just mastering Twitter? Are we doing 3 or 4 different things? If we're a small business now, how many platforms should we be good at? What are the and if you were going to rate them, what platforms would those be?
For small businesses, the visual platforms are very, very appealing right now. Instagram and Pinterest are drawing a lot of impact to restaurants, and they're spending more of their money there that I'm seeing. The general businesses are using more Facebook advertisements to draw the B2C clientele. B2B business is still marketing mostly on LinkedIn, and that's maintained effectiveness throughout the pandemic.
I know that he with most acronyms wins, but B2B means business to business, right? What is B2C?
Business to consumer.
Business to consumer. And like, so I have this question on it, and it's kind of like French food. It's like, what's the most important ingredient in French food? And I say butter. What's the next one,
Ah,
Butter? What's the third one, Butter? For me, I have that for customers, but what about you? What are we are now going to have this influx. What if MySpace doesn't have a storefront? And I've incurred the same kind of wrath uh, over the past 2 years, right? I don't have a storefront. I only have online if I did, but at the same time, people forgot about me. I couldn't keep spending that $3,500 a month, $6,000 a month on my SEO, right?
right.
That or whatever. How am I going to differentiate myself in this wild market? You know.
Good question. The first thing I would look at is the business needs to look at their online presence, meaning if someone searches for them or their category, they're properly set up in Google so they will be found. Because once it's set up, that's sort of free advertising every month because you're not paying for it. It just exists. You need to set up your Google My Business profile, citations, etc., so you look like a responsible business online. And then also with the people that are coming to your business storefront, your e-commerce storefront, make sure you've got a way to convert them with a pop-up chat, an exit chat, something like that to engage them, and also consider retargeting. Only 12% of businesses retarget, so they can put an ad in front of the consumer once they leave the website. And that's a very effective use of what limited dollars may be there.
What's an effective rate? So let's say you're a numbers guy, right? Right? And you didn't open a casino in Atlantic City and fail. But anyway, but let's just say, because they had guns at the door. That's the only way I can, anyway. Anyway, that's the only way I could fail at a casino. But anyway, if you weren't doing, okay, what's an effective rate? Let's say our effective rate for I spend $100 on Facebook ads. Okay, that's $10 a day or whatever, right? Then it goes out. I get so many likes or whatever out of it, right? How much of that should be the conversion rate, right? How much money should I be getting back? How do I know if what I'm working isn't working, right? Or is just not enough money yet or whatever, right?
Right. Oh, it depends on, what the purpose of your ad is. If you're putting an ad out there to build followers, to get likes, you're not necessarily trying to convert. If you put an ad out there that you're specifically trying to get people to convert on, like a 20% off coupon, your rate of return will be better. So it partially depends on what the target of your advertising is. But I suggest to people, especially between Facebook and Twitter and some of the other platforms, consider spending a couple of $100s on each with comparable ads.
A week, a month, a year?
No. Just literally a one shot to see what type of return you have. Because I'm not going to suggest to someone they spend $1,000 on Twitter advertising if they haven't spent 200 first to see if they've even got the right target market. The target market up front is critical. That's why LinkedIn is so great for businesses, because you can so well fine tune who your market is going to be, who will receive your ad.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is okay. It's getting a little bit more like Facebook in some ways, but it seems to me it's just dead on for businesses. We do get some cat photos though, and we get some other things stuck in there, which I love, but I'm supposed to be working, and so because it's still in my head. If you're on Facebook, you ain't working, in my head, you're looking, but. And that's because I'm old or something. I don't know. But I think that's right. There's like an 80% people that on Pinterest are actually looking. 80% they're going to buy something. I think you're right about that. I would like what kinds of what other things are we going to be looking at? Like, so I got $200 is what you said, right? Okay, and I've got a small business. Is it time to go to LinkedIn? It's my whole wad for this month, right? Because that's
right. If your market is the business community, go to LinkedIn and split that $100 between per impression ads and per click ads, because you can either pay per 1,000 people who see your ad, or you can pay per the person that clicks on the ad. I suggest trying both. Split your budget, see which gives you the best return, and then focus whatever future money you have there.
Okay. So now we're going into the evil part, which well, it's not the Star Wars versus Star Trek because they're both dead because Jar Jar Binks took them over. Anyway, anyway, J.J. Abrams, right? Jar Jar Abrams. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is yeah, he's nodding. Notice the agreement in this. Anyway, so so let's say I'm going to do a media play because it's been a while. Now here's where it gets expensive. Radio. Okay.
Oh.
I do one station, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a more dramatic audience that's focused on them. If I get $1,000, because this is what it's going to cost, minimum $1,000 on your local radio station, versus social media.
Right.
Are you splitting that up, or do you want to just go all? What do you want to do?
Excellent question. I might split that up between different time slots. In other words, half of it in a prime time slot, depending upon what it can get for you, and some in the non-prime time slots, because sometimes you can draw more interested people from the non-prime time slots. But you probably have a lot more experience with radio advertising than I do.
Oh, no. Only no. All right, so let's just do this. Like, I mean, would you spend it on radio? Are we spending that $1,000? Because at different levels, we have different things. Would we spend that just on our website, social media? Do we spend it on media alone? You understand? Because that's usually a choice. That is that's an A or B choice. What would you do right now? What do you do right now?
Sure. If I had so my total marketing budget is $1,000 and try and make something happen.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. First thing I do is, again, I would Google my own business and I would see what people see when they search, because almost everyone's going to go to Google and look about the business, make sure they feel it's a legitimate business. Second, I look and make sure I've got enough reviews online, because reviews often make a person choose a provider. Lack of reviews means they may not get the calls. Then my budget I would put on social media marketing. I would probably put radio towards the latter part of the marketing plan, unless I'm someone that has a very high ticket item like a personal injury attorney or other businesses like that. But I would also see if I have an email list or can acquire an email list from my current, past, future patrons, because email has got the greatest return on investment of any marketing dollar.
So if I'm a retail person and I've got a POS system, it's very important not to have a POS so that I can collect the email off of it.
Exactly.
And then we can, and so let's say I had 20,000 people over 5-7 years of business. Could be more. Probably is more. On a retail location, in a good location, I could have that. How do I have Constant Contact. I don't use it right now because it's a pain in the butt for me anyway right now. And then if you want to be a slave of Dice Media Group. No. Anyway, we feed pizza and we found out Diet Coke is very effective for kidding now. Anyway, you have to A/B test this thing. Anyway, so what about that? What about what email do I send out? How do I get myself so I don't get banned from using?
Right. Great.
This stuff.
Yeah. Really good questions. I mean, an email list of 20,000 is phenomenal. I mean, if you've acquired those emails, at some point they gave you permission. So you need to create a drip marketing campaign, perhaps an initial email to them if you haven't been emailing, saying, thank you for being our patron, our customer. We're going to keep in contact with you about information about our business, possible specials, etc. And at the bottom, you'll always have an unsubscribe link so you're can spam compliant. But by loading it into
what's spam compliant?
You have to identify certain pieces about your business, your name, your mailing address, etc., and have an unsubscribe link so that if you mail an email to someone, they have the opportunity to opt out of your list.
Well, I don't know how to make an unsubscribe link. What is all this? How do I? What should? Do I need to pay $1,000 to a web developer to make them do the unsubscribe list for?
No, if you have a service like Constant Contact or MailChimp, in their structure, any emails that go out are automatically set up to have that in them. That's another reason why it's a great idea to use a service like that to send your emails, because you know you'll be in compliance.
Okay. What about, okay, now, I haven't done taxes for 5 years because I'm a standard business person. You think that this is a lie, but in reality, in my experience, I ask, so we're going to go get funding. Let's go get, I haven't done taxes. You're bookkeeper. You laugh because you've seen this.
I know it's true.
I'm a baker. I get up at 3:00 in the morning. I barely make it to the cash register and go back and do dishes and stuff. What are the things? What are the things that I have to look at so I don't go to jail now, or I don't have these massive fines or things? Do I need a CPA? Can the guy at H&R Block handle me? What's the what are the things that you would say to them?
Sure. Well, the question depends on how detailed or what type of business they are. If they're a single person storefront business, their books may be relatively simple to create or recreate for tax purposes, especially if they have a point of sale system. If it's somebody who is perhaps a consultant and has lots of different deductions that haven't been put together, then they may have a more complicated tax return. I think the business owner has filed taxes at some point, so they know if they've got an easy or a difficult tax return. First, get your books up to date, because the books need to be up to date to file the taxes.
So in the past 2 years, things have been, well, different, you know?
Right. Very.
There are still people that their filing system is this box that they got from the shoe store, from Payless Shoe Store. And they put the money in that at night, and then they go to deposit, and then they go, I don't know what these receipts are. Oh, I remember that, or something like that.
Yep.
And they have their sister working for them. Maybe some of their kids during after school, because they've stayed home. Why not? They can learn how to do some of this stuff.
Right.
But now we're going back to school, and we'll talk about back to school employment, whatever. What about that? It's more complicated. I've got 2 or 3 employees. Do I need?
Sure. Yeah, that is more complicated. It's funny. You mentioned the shoebox full of receipts. That's how I started doing Bookkeeper. My father was an accountant, and he brought me along to add up all the receipts from the boxes of the new clients he would get, because it just took forever and it was always a mess. So I love that question. And regardless, somebody's got to put it together. Either the business owner is going to sit there and try and put them all on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper so they can be coded and allocated to the right expense, or they're going to pay a bookkeeper to do it. But either way, your income and your expenses have to be put together so you know what the numbers are to put on the tax return. And that would really help determine whether or not you can use the guy at H&R Block, or you need to go to a CPA or a different type of professional.
Some people in business, I'm saying, they don't want to show that they have a lot of income per se, because they don't want to pay a lot of taxes. So things don't look the same as you do your personal taxes. Maybe that then you would do, like, your personal taxes are different than your business taxes, because you're not showing. You could write stuff off. You can push this expense to something. I bought new computers this year. I can do depreciation, other things like that. Is that how when we're doing that sort of work, right? What do you advise? Show the maximum amount of profit, or are you showing not so much? We're not, or lower our tax liability.
It depends what the purpose of the tax return will be, meaning, are you going to use your tax return for some type of funding or licensing, or are you using your tax return to try and be in compliance and pay the minimum taxes? Because you can choose as a business to take legitimate deductions, and how you allocate them can impact how much profit you show. I knew a photographer who chose to put less of its expenses on the business. He just did not want to have them to help his business be more profitable. And it was in fact more profitable. He just chose to take those deductions personally as opposed to through the business. So it really depends what is the goal. But if you have a business entity, if you have a corporation, an S Corp, an LLC, then you've got a lot more options than if you're an individual who's just got a DBA or doesn't have some form of structured business process.
In Utah, to file an LLC is just extra money a year for the DBA versus DBA is less hassle because you only have to file it every 3 years. LLC is you have to file it every year. We don't have to do quarterly taxes on most smaller businesses. What is your preference? I mean, if you're advising somebody, would you rather have them DBA or when they start, or do you want them to go for the LLC because it's expensive to do?
They can also go for a subchapter S. It gives them a lot of the comparable protection. And LLC filings, they vary by state. You know, Utah is probably different than New York, which is different than Delaware. But
everybody files in Delaware for some reason now. Right?
They file, but LLCs don't have to file a tax return in Delaware. They just pay an annual franchise tax based on reported sales, or actually based on outstanding shares. Okay. But it's, you know, if someone is just starting a business, they should look at the costs for the different entities, because if they're starting from the ground up, they may want to create the cheapest entity and then grow out of it to better structure. If they're already an established business, they've got something, a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC, or a DBA.
Okay, I'm going to take a moment right now. Hey, this is Michael Tanner. I'm talking for Dice Media Group with our best friend here, Gino. And we're going to be talking, if you need some help, if you need some guidance in social media, mass media, or you want some consulting, call Dice Media Group, www.dicemediagroup.com. Hey, and we're back. And we're back with Gino. I just do that every once in a while, you know. Anyway, so Gino, there are people that have just quit the job market because of COVID, right? This is, I can't take this. It's too stressful for me. So what I want to do is start my own business. I got $100,000, and I'm like, bury it in a hole. If you've never run a whole business, I'm more of the type that would say, take the hole, bury it in a hole, throw the shovel in, bury the shovel. Wait that you have to go with your bare hands to pull that money out, because that is your go away money. Some people have said that's the FU money, but that is, if anything happens, you can always say go away. I'm busy, right? You know?
Right.
But then there's the weird people in life that say, I've been an accountant for 20 years. I want to do something creative finally. And I'm going, well, you're an accountant. You're probably not into the, if you could do that job for 20 years with a gun without a gun going into your mouth at some time, you're probably not a creative person. You're probably not an entrepreneur, right? But what do you say to them? It's like, I got $100,000, and you're like, that would be a nice client on one side, right?
Right.
Damn, that would be a nightmare client on the other side. Are we buying a business? Are we buying a business for them, and they can be the restaurateur, doesn't run it, but you know what I'm saying? What type of what type do they have a preference, or are they just saying, I have 100,000, I want to change? I've worked at the grocery store for 20, almost 30 years of my life. And if I smell dog food again, I'm taking the dog food aisle out. I need to get out of this. I want to break free, you know. I want to break free. So, what type of things are we going to do to Gino? Tell me, you're a good boy. Right. Tell me what I'm going to do with this money, right?
Okay.
Is this okay?
My first question is, do you have a business that you've always wanted to do? Do you have a passion you want to try? Because I want to try and identify, Is this a phase that they want to get through, or is it something they really want to focus on? And if they want to focus on becoming a painter or an artist,
Okay.
I'll talk to them about the return on investment there and show them what the average income is for that type of business in the industry and try and guide them to someone. But also, a lot of people who, like you've suggested, they've got a ton of money. What do I do? One of their options is turning to and looking at the franchise industry, because the advantage of a franchise industry is it is fully vetted. They've got a very clear plan of operation and usually a very clear ROI. So that may be some of the safest way a person can invest. But often franchises are above $100,000.
Okay. But I'm going to tell you a secret. If you got $100,000, there are people in this world that will give you money. You put the $100,000 in, they'll be glad to loan to own on your $100,000 because we'll just take it over. We'll rip it off of them once they're done.
Exactly.
And then we'll take over that McDonald's. We just got a shavings of $100,000 off of McDonald's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. What type?
Right.
So let's say if they're just, I want to make these clay pots, right? Should I open? And I can make my potter's wheel. Do I want to open a storefront, or you understand?
No, absolutely. I would suggest someone open an online store if they're selling a product first, because that way they can get familiar with selling online via an Etsy store or a website, because who are they going to market to? If they open a business online, their expenses are as low as they can possibly be as they're learning what they do. A storefront should only really be considered if they've got details of a business plan, a marketing plan, they know the geography, they know the type of street traffic they're going to get. And if they've really looked into that industry's yield in that type of location.
Okay. I've talked to authors who have this. I got my article into analog. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to be a full-time writer because somebody paid me one time. And I'm like, keep your day job, dude. Just calm down. We haven't even gone. You don't know what it's like, you know. What and besides that, in this past time, we can't even go to a con to sell it to anybody. But analog paid for it. Analog,
right.
Or Asimov or something, right? You know, and
right.
What, or they sell that one big toaster that's $10,000. They finally sold it. Now they want to do that business full time.
Yep.
How do we approach people like that? What is the best way?
It's trying to moderate them. In the example you had about the article, that's fantastic that Analog bought it. How long were you submitting? And what is the likelihood of any writer trying to be financially successful, not attempting to dampen their spirits, but trying to just say, okay, that's cool, you sold it. Now let's look at the industry and let's talk about the profit potential, not with a single blockbuster, but with week after week, month after month income and expenses. Does your one sale to Analog, how will that move forward?
Okay.
And that's often where I talk with someone where they just, look like a deer in the headlights.
Well, okay. So now let's talk about kids, because the kids are having a gangbuster time going back to work. They say there's a tight job market. Well, what it has been is that they've been in school, and now they're out and they can take all these wonderful jobs that are opening right now. And I psychologically say, I know this is a bad business plan. I'm going to put an 18-year-old, I'm going to put him in college. We're going to spend $100,000, right? And get his butt in school. Because if he goes to that restaurant, he's going to be in my house again. What are you suggesting? What? He thinks, okay, he's got 12 friends. They always come over, right? And the 12 friends always come over. They eat everything, right? And he thinks he's God's gift, So we want to mitigate that. What are you suggesting? Is it time to be in school these 18-year-olds, but the 18-year-olds are saying, but I'm making 15, 20 bucks an hour now, slinging fries right now.
Yeah, that's a tough question because, when people are teens and especially when they're 18 and especially guys, they just know what they're going to do. They're working that fry machine and they're now going to make $15 an hour. It's tough to move them out of that into a different type of mentality. School may help because it could broaden their opportunities, or trying to get them to float a resume with whatever they currently have, maybe helping them get experience in going to headhunters or applying for different types of jobs. Yes, the $15 an hour flipping fries, it may be great, but something else may also be great. Just trying to get them not to accept it so the 12 friends keep coming over to the house.
We have that kind of experience. People apply and they want to be a web developer or something, and I don't necessarily go into an FBI background check for a 17, 18-year-old. That's because they're not going to have any. I'm just going to say, we'll play chess. We'll see if he's got any kind of thing going on in his head. There might be days where he'd be polishing the garbage can, but I'm a web developer. Yeah, keep polishing that garbage can. You realize you're going to get fired. You're going to be moving in your mom's basement real quick here. And people are like that. I think that adulthood has getting to adulthood is stretched out to 26, 27 years old now, right? My parents married when they were teenagers. My dad went to the Navy. My mom just barely got out of high school. They got married. They got a house, all this other stuff. I think the economics have changed a little bit. And what do you say about that? Is it harder now to start out in life, or is it easier to start out in life, than 20 years ago?
I think it's harder because I think the current generation, you're right, it's different than when our parents or even we were growing up, because we think it was just different. I know people who come out of college and get $120,000, $150,000 jobs, and they live up to that lifestyle. And when they lose it, they have very little recourse. I think expenses are so proportionately significantly higher. In a building in New York where my mother had lived, when she moved into it in the 60s, her rent was $129. Today, that apartment rents for $3,400. And even if your income has increased from 1960, it hasn't kept pace. So the cost of living is higher. So I do believe it is harder for a young person these days. And that they're not mature at 18. It's taking to 26 and 30, 40, 50, and so on.
Yeah. I noticed a story today in the Wall Street Journal about a lot of things happening. One of those things was investors are worried about inflation. So because I know I've had this experience, we get to present a new iPhone type of, or an app that just is groundbreaking, and the banks look at you like, I don't know what that is. You're high. There's no way that we're going to give you money based on an app or something like that. Do you have any hard assets? And I think that maybe if I was an inventor, even now, with some experience, it's still hard to get the money for that type of space. How would you go about securing money to open your new business, or even if business has been around 6 years but they've gone through COVID? What are some of the things? What are the lies that we tell ourselves, right? Because we're going to continue. What are some of the things that are truths that we will say to ourselves as we come along? What are some of the things that we have to worry about? So.
Right. And the first thing I would say to someone is, get a good hard look at where you are financially. What do you have coming in? What do you owe? What do you have in assets? Do you have a business or a business plan where you can apply for a loan? If you can't apply for a loan, consider approaching people that would be venture capitalists or partners, getting a partner to buy or back your business, giving up a percentage of ownership. If you're that inventor, venture capitalists trying to contact them, because the venture capital market is now much more developed than it has been in the past. And there is a lot of money out there, partially because of the pandemic. They were not lending as much, but that's probably a larger form of business. Looking back at my suggestion of a franchise, franchises are very financeable. The business you've had for 4 or 6 years that's suffering from the pandemic may not be as financeable. You have options of taking, merchant advance loans and possibly getting PPC loans, but those are finite and usually won't give you the huge chunk of money you're looking for.
Okay, so let's just say now we're going on, and inflation is kicking up. By the way, the minimum wage is not, and minimum wage ties to bankruptcy, because whatever the bankruptcy rate is, that's the money that they have to pay back. Usually in every state, it's tied to the bankruptcy level. So if they've had a bankruptcy, right, they have to pay back a certain amount tied to that. So if they raise the minimum wage, the amount of money that's paid back into the bankruptcies, this all has a knock-on effect, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird. So what about, we want to, your prescription for, let's transition to the future. What are some of the, let's take 3 things that you say would be great if policy would do these 3 things. What are 3 things that Gino thinks would be great, to do?
For policy, definitely expanding the availability of business loans through banks to businesses. There just needs to be more money in the market to help businesses apply for loans to get back on track and to expand. I think there also needs to be a huge influx of money that's targeted towards minority business owners. Minority business owners have traditionally faced greater challenges, and that needs to be addressed economically, because minority businesses are just as healthy as all other businesses. They just need to be given an opportunity to grow. And the third might, I don't know about taxes, in that if a business is making money, they can pay taxes based on their operating structure. Maybe making the environment better for health coverage for individuals, continuing the Affordable Care Act or something, so that the smaller businesses can provide benefits to their employees that they might not have the ability to fund out of their sales, if that makes sense.
I agree with that, because I think that minorities are behind the ball when it comes to social networks. Like, if I walk into a room, just because of who I am, fat, gregarious, fat, I walk into that room, and like Stephanie said, she's like, he just goes into the room and talks to him, and he comes out with a check. And it's like, it's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. I saw her, and she was talking to this to somebody else. How does he do that? I would never give him money. I'm just, well, that's what he does, But anyway, but the thing is I think that's true. I also think that the taxes hurt minorities, because the marriage tax comes back. We have 2 people that are income earners; they get higher tax, and I think that maybe, I don't know about a minimum tax, but if you make over $1 billion a year, maybe you should pay 10% of your income towards. You should never get away with not paying any taxes into the system. I think that's...
Agreed completely. It's not fair that, the wealthier corporations and individuals take advantage of the tax laws, so they end up paying less in taxes than the guy flipping burgers. Not fair, needs to be corrected.
Right. And one of the things I thought was really not, I think it was Shake Shack is a good example of this. PPP loans went out. Shake Shack took millions of dollars of PPP money. There wasn't any when I got there. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're out of money? You had this program open for 3 days. Well, we lost it. If I was behind with my brother, he would find that money, because right. It would be like Stewie, like, where's my money? Where's my money? And I think in Congress we lose the track of, like, there are New York congressmen. If you lost 30,000, 40 grand of a small business's money, there would be a conversation, and you'd find money, real fast.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you knows what I'm talking about. Joey and Paulie would come talk to the priest with you, and you find out whether or not you had a God, and that would be it. We would go downtown. We would go to a couple nice places in a ride in a car, and by the time you're done, you found the money again. See, that's
Right.
That's we'd have a payment plan. You be talking in twice a day, whatever. But I think though that is I think that you're absolutely correct. Anyway, I would love to continue on, but we got to give you 2 minutes to do the Gino rap, and this is where we cue music, and we put some big things in, and then Gino talks for a couple minutes. Let's talk in camera, huh? All right.
Okay.
So Gino, tell us your secrets, and what are the things that we could do?
Well, I've mentioned a couple of times during our conversation, making sure the business looks good online. When people are looking at your business, they need to see that you've got a robust online presence, and you've also got positive reviews, because positive reviews equate to social proof. And even if you're not actively spending money on marketing, that'll help drive people to your business, existing business or new business. And then when you get people to your website, you got to be able to convert them. So many people just create a website with the information about their services, but they don't try and engage them. They don't proactively try and get the person's name or phone number, or to text or get a call going with them. And that's important because only 4% of people who visit a website take an action. 96% leave. So we show businesses how to put a communications widget on their website so that they can convert more of those people. And then if people do leave, the ones that don't convert, we suggest they do retargeting, because just like email marketing has a fantastic ROI, remarketing, where you get back in front of the people who visited your website, and those are the most interested prospects, has a great return, and will bring people back to your website where you can convert them. And that's what we're doing right now. And with coming out of the pandemic, it's a lot of fun to work with business owners to help them with this, to help them just regrow their business again.
So it's growing everything back. Anyway, Gino, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Maybe they're personal, like how do we get a hold of you? What are some of the things, if I wanted to call you, how would we do that?
Sure. Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, which is my name, www.ginokaye.com. And my phone number is 302-202-9797. On my website, there's a way to communicate with me by email, by text, or to get an instant call back in about 14 seconds.
And you'll chat with them, right?
Absolutely. They'll get right to me.
In the morning, but I have $1 million to spend. I have to spend it before sunrise. How do I do this? I know. What about you're on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that? What do you do personally?
Social media sites. I'm most active on LinkedIn because our clients are primarily business to business. But anyone's welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook. They can even do it right by going to the website.
All right. Thank you so much, Gino. We're going to take a couple of minutes as we wrap out. That's our music cue. We are getting ready to go. Everybody's like closing the lights on. Hey, keep that light on just for a minute. We're going to be right back. Well, it's Monday morning, and we're going to see you on the morning wrap with Michael Tanner, your favorite host, and we'll be out. Break out of your shell.